I'm Britt Bingold, and you are listening to Season 4 of Learning Unlocked. Welcome to Learning Unlocked. Educators are the key holders to unlocking learning for students. Today, as always, my goal is to provide you with resources and tools, the keys, to enable and accelerate learning for all students. Let's get started.
Welcome to episode 32 of Learning Unlocked. I'm excited today to be joined by my two fellow instructional specialists, Wendy Peterson and Salce. We're going to talk about how to make substitute plans fast. And we kind of have an acronym for that. But before we get to that, I want them to introduce themselves because they're going to be reoccurring guests. If you didn't listen to the bonus episode, which is the episode right before this, go back and listen to that because it does kind of lay out the format for season 4. So, good morning, ladies.
Hello.
Good morning.
Wendy, can you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners before we start?
I would love to. So my name is Wendy Peterson. The most important things I always tell people are that I'm a 4th-generation teacher right here in Arizona. Go ASU! My grandmother graduated from there in 1914 when I was Tempe Normal School. This is my 36th year in education. 26 of those years were spent as a classroom teacher, and now I have the great honor and privilege of working with all teachers around the district to improve instruction.
Love it. Okay, and Julia?
Yeah, so I am an instructional specialist alongside these two brilliant ladies, and I am what I refer to as an accidental teacher. Mm-hmm. So I actually started college wanting to be a doctor. I really thought I wanted to be a doctor. That's funny now.
I think you would have been
an awesome doctor.
You are our office doctor.
You are.
Yeah, and I kind of just bounced a little bit from content to content area or major to major in college, and ended up getting a teaching certification just because I needed a job. I needed something to do. And I know it's horrible to say. But as I started doing it, all of the pieces of my past self came together, like all of the things that I would notice when other teachers were teaching when I was in classes. And really, I think I needed and wanted to be a teacher all along.
You are a natural born teacher, even if you didn't know it at first. And I'm guessing a lot of other teachers are in your shoes.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. And so this is my 18th year teaching. I was just thinking the other day, I can't believe it's been 18 years. And I love my job right now. I love getting to help teachers K-12 look at, and really pre-K-12, look at what the research says works and translate that into what that actually means in actions in the classroom.
Awesome. Yep. So again, I just get to work with these two amazing ladies every day, and we get to talk now for the podcast for season 4 for the episode. So I'm really excited about this format. I think it'll be good, especially with what's going on currently in education. Having kind of a random slug of topics didn't feel right this season. So we are going to really look at what's happening in education and make topics that are relevant for right now, and still are committed to bringing you guys strategies that will work, regardless of what's going on. But with the current Omicron surge, the need for substitute teachers has risen exponentially. So we've realized that even under normal circumstances, preparing for a substitute can feel like a daunting task. You always seem to feel like it's more work to prepare than it is to actually be there sometimes. And so we want to try to figure out a way to make that process of preparing for a substitute easier for everybody involved. So that includes students, teachers, and of course the substitutes. So because in our department, we love a good acronym. And I think in education, we also love a good acronym. We landed on FAST because that's sometimes when you need to make them. You need to make them now and fast and quickly. So F in FAST is going to stand for foundation. A is going to stand for active. S is going to stand for schedule, and T is for template. So we're going to go through each of those letters today in the podcast, and the ladies are going to kind of talk through it. And then at the end of the episode, if you go to the episode link, you're going to be able to access a template that we have created to hopefully help you be more successful and be able to make substitute plans fast. So that is the goal today. So ladies, let's talk about F first, which is foundations. And basically, what are the foundations that need to be laid in the classroom before a substitute or a guest teacher even walks through the door?
So this is really how if you were to ask me when I was in the classroom, how I prepared for substitutes, this was really where I focused most of my energy. I don't know that I wrote the best sub plans, but I really made sure that my students were trained well. And we actually talked about substitutes in those first couple of weeks when we were laying procedures. And so really making sure that you have an intentional classroom culture, that you've had conversations with students about how you treat guests in the classroom, and your expectations from them. And really, I used to talk to them a lot about how I expected them to behave even better when there was a guest in the classroom than just with me. And then also, I made sure that there were no questions about how to do just about anything in the room, that every kid was well trained procedurally, from things like where do we turn in papers, where do we go when we're done, if we need something else to do, can they communicate with me when I have a substitute, can they send me an email, or can they later on, those different things. And so then I made sure we had specific structures. Later on, that was Google Classroom, and that would be how I would set them up on doing things. But earlier on, it was structures for how they were going to collaborate, how they were going to work individually, and what that would look like. So really, it was all about training them, and making sure conversations about substitutes came up in those procedural training days.
Yeah.
And always. So even if I didn't have an absence planned,
Right.
we still talked about if I weren't here. Because there were times when my principal or another teacher needed to speak to me, and I needed to go out of the room for just a minute.
Yeah.
And so my students had to know how the classroom ran. This isn't something you can say, hey guys, I'm going to be sick tomorrow. So I need you to make sure that that's not how it works. Like everything else, it's teaching them procedures, practicing those procedures, expecting those procedures, holding them to those procedures, so that when a guest teacher does come in, nothing is a surprise to them. Really, I prided myself, and Julia, you must have too, on classes, students who could almost run themselves.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the
Right.
room ran itself.
Right. And substitutes loved that
Yeah.
for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want, it's so funny. I remember being a student and having a substitute, and like it would get around to school. Like, we have a substitute in this class today and we don't have to do anything, like that was kind of the way we thought about substitutes. Like, yay, we have one, we can kind of do what we want. That's not what we want the students to be thinking or feeling when they hear or see that you have a substitute, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, there's a substitute. She's still going to expect us to get everything done.
Yeah.
And she's going to hold us accountable to that. So I think laying that foundation early, because as soon as, if you don't, the first time you have a substitute, they're going to go back into that cool, like, yeah, this person doesn't know what we do. Like, I can do what I want. Like, I can listen to music or whatever, So just making sure that foundation is laid. And then how will these foundations then, so like Julia, you talked about classroom procedures, structures, where to turn in things, how to turn in things. That needs to be communicated to the substitute as well. So when they walk in the door, the kids know it, but also the substitute knows it. So it's like there's no miscommunication between the two. So how can we explain those things for a guest teacher?
Well, I always had a notebook ready with all the basics in it. I didn't want to rewrite every time I was going to be out all the rules and procedures in my classroom. So that was just set and ready to go. You know how you're supposed to leave your fire drill procedures and lockdown procedures. My classroom procedures were just part of that. They weren't mixed into, here's what we're doing today.
Right. So you had a separate, like a substitute folder. Or a binder.
Yeah. And this was way before like Google Classroom, or I'm going to send you an email. Yeah.
Yeah. But I even think that's nice to have for any substitute walking in the door, a physical
Mhm.
something
Could not agree more.
that tells them, even if the kids are going to be doing something digitally
Mhm.
and you really don't have to do a whole lot, it's nice to have
They still need directions.
that direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I used a template that I would just type into that had some of
Mhm.
those basic things, just like Wendy said. And then I would always do an introduction to
Mhm.
my class. And I would actually rewrite it every time to capture just the essence of what they were walking into.
Mm.
We're currently in the middle of blank,
Blank,
blank, blank,
blank,
blank, and the kids have been doing this. And it was quick. It wasn't anything that
Right.
took up a lot of time, but I felt like giving the substitute a context
Mhm.
of what we were doing would be helpful. And then if I had anything that I wanted to mention about particular students, things that
Mhm.
they needed to know,
Yeah.
then I would do that there.
Yeah, like, or if a certain student gets pulled out at a certain time,
Mhm.
you know,
Or is
every
diabetic,
day,
or is
has
some type
diabetic, or
of
has some
chronic
type of- they're
illness.
going to be late every day to fourth hour because blah blah blah. Like, those are good things for a substitute to know walking in, for sure. Okay, so just laying those foundations is super important. So that's why we have F. If you do that foundation first and you have it where it really only needs little minor tweaks every now and again, that should help substitute plans go a little faster.
Mhm.
And on the plus side, if you really have those procedures set and
Mhm.
taught and practiced and all of that, your life will be simpler too on
Yeah.
a day-to-day basis.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Not
Yes.
just for
So,
substitutes.
yeah.
Right.
It's just good practice.
That's just good practice,
That-
anyways.
right.
Yeah. When I'm not here, if I have to step out or whatever, this is
Yeah.
this is what I expect to be happening when I'm gone. So, okay, ladies, what happens like when we walk into a classroom and we see any lesson go awry? What's going on? The students are basically what?
Well, oftentimes they're not
Engaged. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so when students are engaged, what do we notice the most?
Well, I think the immediate one is talking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on the culture of the classroom, that talking can kind of build into other things like throwing a pencil across the room or making eye contact or
I just think of kids turning around in their seat all over the place,
Yes,
like
yeah.
to make contact with friends from different parts of the room.
Oh, I can see
and-
kids getting up and just
Oh, yeah.
walking over and sitting
Oh,
on the
yeah.
edge of the desk,
Yeah.
talking to their friend. Yeah,
I think
so-
of the whack-a-mole game, but all of them pop up at once,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
That's that building.
Good times.
And you're like, how do I get them back to where they're supposed to be
Yes.
engaged?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one do I go for first?
I know.
Yeah.
And that's scary. So being a substitute is kind of intense because you're walking
yeah.
into who knows what every single time because every single teacher has a different format, a different
It's like
procedure.
a first day of school every
Every
day.
day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you have to get them to
Mhm.
respect you and, they have good behavior. So it really does help a substitute out when, a student gets done early to have an active experience kind of waiting for them. So how can a teacher, and I'm talking about maybe even just like these pre-made things that are there on an overview sheet or they're a part of your sub binder, that no matter what the day is or the week's plans are, or maybe it's like an emergency sub call, these are already set up in the classroom and then they can help with engagement and participation from students when they get done with their work early, because there's always going to be a few students. And I know a lot of teachers are like, well, they can go help other students, but then you end up with a lot of talking, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but could be.
Yeah.
And for subs, they can't tell necessarily always like the difference between, okay, is this talking acceptable talking in this classroom or is this not? And it just makes it a little bit more stressful, I think, on the substitute.
Well, and could I insert here? I hope this isn't taking away any thunder later. But sometimes teachers think, I don't want the sub to have to work too hard or do anything. So the kids will have this math worksheet and this reading worksheet and this social science worksheet. And what they'll do is they'll just work on these. Well, I don't know about you, but if I had to sit through 7 hours of worksheets other than go to special on lunch, I mean, no. So that's when kids get off task.
Right.
Better to leave plans for the substitute and for when students are done that are very specific and allow them maybe some purposeful movement or
Yes.
some
Mhm.
kinesthetic work or something.
Brain break-ish.
Yeah.
But it's still rigorous.
Still rigorous. Yeah, we don't
Mhm.
want that. We don't ever want busy work.
Oh, say that louder.
We don't ever want busy work.
Yes, lean into that.
And so it is not a gift to substitutes when you leave busy work.
No.
Right.
Will you create that game, the whack-a-mole game
Right.
that's broken, where they all come
Right.
up?
And it makes for a really long day.
Mhm.
We've been in classrooms lately as substitutes. It makes for a really long day when the kids are going to sit and work quietly and independently all day.
Right. Yeah.
For everybody, it's a long day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think when we talk about this idea of being active, we're talking about two things. What is the actual activity that you're leaving for them to do? So we're talking about we don't want to leave worksheets
In the plan.
in the
Yes.
regular plan. And then how are we going to keep them actively engaged when we have early finishers? So I think this is where, when we're talking about the actual plan, this is where if you've laid the foundation earlier and you have a handful of strategies that you know kids are just really good at.
Right.
Let's say all you can come up with is this math worksheet
Right.
or the math problems in the book. And we have all been there. We get that. We
yes,
get that.
we
Yeah,
have.
you feel horrible and you're like, please just have them do page 7,
Right.
evens and odds, and
Right.
I have to go
Yeah.
back to bed now.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
If you've had them discuss or share in specific structures and formats, you can very easily then leave directions for the substitute to say, have the students work the problems for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, call their attention, have them now turn to a partner, and let's figure out who's A and B. And they know this structure. A is going to share for number 1, I came up with this because, then they're going to do better. And if they've done that and the substitute understands that, it takes the worksheet and it turns it into something a bit more active.
Right.
And
Getting
so
it done, but
they're getting it done, but they're actually, they're talking to each other, they're collaborating, and they're doing in that way. And so if you've left a few of those structures and you've practiced them quite a bit, then a substitute can easily implement that, and it doesn't take any more prep on your part.
Especially if the students, we're a
Trained
broken
on-
record here,
Mhm.
but if you have trained those kids, if they're like, oh yeah,
I'm always
we're
A and I'm
used
always
to
B.
doing
and-
this, then
That sentence framed
Yeah.
on the wall.
not a big
and-
deal.
But this is not the time to leave the substitute something that the kids have never done. And so, because
In
that
unison.
just
Never done.
that just sets them up for
Yeah.
issues as well in the opposite
No.
direction. So definitely it has to be something that the kids have rehearsed, and you know that if the substitute says your teacher says to do this, they just take off doing it because they understand.
Right.
Right. They get the idea, they know
Yeah.
what to do, and they're good to go.
Yeah.
And it's actually great for a substitute to be able to feel confident when they say, hey, your teacher says to do this. The kids go, okay.
Right.
And instead of just looking at them blankly, you know?
Yeah. And I would always insert in parentheses in the sub plan, they will know what this means.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the sub knew, like, okay,
If I say this phrase,
Right.
something's going to happen.
I don't know what this means,
Right.
but your teacher says you
Right.
do.
Right.
Right.
The second piece of it, though, is then what do you do when the kids finish early?
Mhm.
And that's where having those early finishing activities set up in advance and clearly indicated, because you don't want the sub making a call between can I go work on my math IXL, or can I play Prodigy games? And you don't know as the substitute what's allowed and what's not technology wise, and then there's a decision that has to be made. But I would say when you're setting up those activities for early finishers, we don't want that to be busy work either.
Right.
And a good
Well, they
if
won't
this
go
were
do it. They won't be
Right.
excited to go do it if it's busy work.
if this were me, I would look at the priority skills, the priority standards that I know kids need constant repetition with, and I would come up with creative or unique activities that are always there, and they're generic enough that the kids could rotate in different content. So you're not making it every time,
Right.
Yeah.
but it's there,
Right.
and they can do those things.
Well, and so first of all, I just want to say for the 10 millionth time in my life that Julie is brilliant.
Mhm.
Use that time to have kids practice those priority standards.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put in a plug for, because Julia just said you don't create it each time. Kids can do the very same activity
Oh yeah.
more than once.
Mhm.
And so we always think that it has to be brand new. Oh, when I go for a sub, I'm going to have to create. No. Create this ahead of time. Have it ready to go. Have it interchangeable with different contents, as Julia said, or different skills. But also, if they did it when you were at a doctor appointment 6 weeks ago,
Yeah.
they can do it right now while you're home sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have repetition.
Yeah.
Mhm. And you want that with activities. You don't want them to learn if they're focusing so much on learning new activities, they can't focus on the learning.
Right. So it's like having, some centers, even if you think of it that way, that you typically might use with students and they're really trained in.
Mm-hmm.
Having those turn into quick little boxes almost that they can just pull out and they can, use and know what they're doing because they've done the center with you, but tons of times, and they can do it on a task. And I was even thinking with some of the younger students, and even I think high school students, if you had, Legos in a box or brain flakes in a box or something, and then you had little prompts in there, build a visual representation of your work today. They like to play. It's hands-on, and it's something that the kids are like going to want to try to, I want to get my work done and do well because that looks like a good, fun thing to do when I'm done with my work that day. So it doesn't always have to, it could be, all the way from reading your book independently, silently, to, hey, let's go grab these bins that we've done before in centers and learn even retrieval practice, right? You could have some retrieval practice items in there that they could pull from and practice things that they've already learned, right? So there's a lot of different options of what you can do. You just, as a teacher, have to decide what the best fit is for your class.
And I'm less enthusiastic about read your book.
Yes.
I love reading. Don't get me wrong about
that would
reading.
be an easy one.
Or it's an easy. I always left it. Don't get me wrong. I always left it. But I made sure that what I was leaving for the main lesson plan was hearty.
Oh yes.
That it wasn't going to be in 5 minutes
for sure.
done.
Yes.
And that there was always some enrichment or remediation for students.
Right.
And then if that was done, which was rare, please
read your book.
Read your book.
Exactly.
And I always kept books in the classroom, so if students who I didn't bring a book, awesome. I have thousands. Here you go.
Right. So I think that's a good idea. I mean, I think it's a good idea across the board, just not just for substitutes, but for when even you're teaching and you have those kids that need those extension activities or enrichment or they need some remediation.
Well, early finishers activities should be part of your standard procedures. Just like you said, that it's not just something for when you have a substitute. It's something that should be standard practice in your room. So the sub doesn't have to teach it. Right. Sub shouldn't even have to explain it. No, it's there for them. They know these are the options.
Yeah.
If that way, if a student comes up and says, no, our teacher always lets us play Prodigy games. Yeah. The sub can say, it's not one of these options. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, and I told my students, and in fact, people who've come to my adult classes, I say this too, there's no such thing as done.
Right.
So if you're just going to sit and daydream, it's not happening here.
Right.
There's always additional learning so you don't need to rush through anything to be done.
Right.
No such thing.
Yeah. And again, we're going to get to the part where the plan should be already anyways.
Yeah.
I think having those as a quick reference for the substitute to just know, hey, by the way, if they do finish early, here's some options that they know of and they've been trained in, is really helpful because you're going to get those kids that come up and say, I'm done. Now what? And they're hoping you'll say, oh, just do
whatever
you need to work on.
Yep. All right. So logically, it seems like starting a substitute plan with the day's schedule makes the sense, right? But we didn't start with schedule. We started with foundations and active learning. So I think when you start your overview page or your template or the first page of your binder or whatever it is that you use for substitutes, that the foundations of the classroom culture and then that you value your students' learning to be an active process, I think that sets a different tone for a substitute. They know what kind of classroom they're walking into, and that's super helpful for them. Okay, and it does give them some context, like Julia was talking about as well. Hey, we're right in the middle of this also, and by the way, this is what they're working on. So once those foundations and suggested activities are solid and you feel good about it, then clearly the substitute needs to know what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The daily schedule is necessary, okay? And it is the crux for the substitute because they got to know, where am I going? What am I doing? So really though, what should be included, and we're going to do elementary first. Okay, in the schedule portion of the plan. So for an elementary schedule, what does the sub need to see?
Can I say for both, I would recommend when you're building a schedule, and this is K-12,
Yeah.
I would suggest building in 5 to 10 minutes for the substitute to introduce themselves to the class,
Nice.
to share a little bit about themselves, maybe to ask the students some questions and
To
just get a
establish
feel credibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So they could add that into
Include that as part of every, in
Mm-hmm.
your general, please take 10 minutes to, and then even give some options there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give them some suggestions.
Yeah, so they're not like, I don't know what to say, or like, oh, hey guys, I'm the person today.
Well,
What are you guys doing? Like, it gets so awkward.
Or you could
just-
say things like, my students are really into forest animals.
Yeah.
Share your favorite forest animal with
Yeah.
them.
Right.
Right? I mean, you're helping them build a
Right.
quick connection.
Yeah, because walking in and saying, okay, you open to page 75 in your math book, and that's just not, it's not going to
so
work.
hard. It makes
Yeah.
it so much harder to gain their trust and credibility. And again, it's like the first day of school, like you said, Wendy, that has to happen rapidly.
Mhm.
Okay, especially if you're going to see them for that one day. So, in the elementary, so let's give them some time to introduce themselves. But then what needs to be included in the elementary schedule? They need to know how long everything takes, right?
But yeah, and
Or should take.
it really, what I want to see first thing is from 9:10 to 9:50, it's this.
Mm-hmm.
And from 9:50
Like a math block or something.
Yeah, I mean, I need to see that laid out before anything.
Yeah.
When I go into substitute in an elementary classroom, I've got to get my brain wrapped around
the day.
that schedule. What does my day look like?
Mm-hmm. What am I going to be able to eat?
Yeah.
We know there's no such thing as going to bathrooms, so
Yeah, that we can't include.
That's not there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And I don't know, ladies, if you think this is the right place for this or not, but as you're building that schedule, if they're walking somewhere, if there's like 5 minutes, like it's whatever, 9:10, we finish the math block of time, and then they're going to special, and that starts at 9:15. I find it helpful to know, what am I expected to do in walking them? Like, how do I, am I walking with them in that 5 minutes? Do we take that 5 minutes? Do they swing by the bathroom?
Right.
Are we supposed to make a bathroom stop on the way? And so during that transition time, is there something that,
Should they be
as the
cleaning up
substitute,
something
Yes.
and setting or
Yes.
bringing something out for when they return?
Well, and I think too, I used to joke that when I left subplans, it basically told them to breathe in,
Yeah.
exhale,
Mhm.
and so don't assume that the person coming into your classroom knows, well, of course kids go to the bathroom during this time, or of course you have to walk them to the playground,
or through the
of
hot
course
lunch
you have-
line, or
you don't assume the person doesn't
No, anything.
Right. I would rather have more information than less. But while we're on the subject, I would prefer it to be numbered or bulleted
Yes.
than written as
In paragraphs.
a narragraph.
narragraph. I love it. Narragraph, new word.
That's a new word.
New word, narragraph, hashtag narragraph.
Mm.
So, and we're going to provide you guys with a template at the end, and you guys can use it if you would like. But we have a daily schedule little area, and there's plenty of lines in there. There's more lines than you need for a typical daily schedule. So you can kind of add in little things underneath as bullet points, like, okay, here we're going to go to specials at this time, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's helpful for any teacher walking into a classroom. What about for, also, specials for sure, recess for sure. How do we get them through the hot lunch line?
Cafeteria.
Cafeteria.
Mhm.
Where's the substitute's place to eat?
Right.
That's helpful information
That's also
too.
Like, do I go back to the room? Am I supposed to sit with them? I don't know.
Right.
So those are all helpful
Assume
things.
your guest teacher has no
No
idea.
idea.
Yep.
And again, do you have to do that tonight while you're home with a terrible
No.
headache. No, that's all done ahead of time.
Yeah, that's that early prep, that get
Right.
that overview sheet
Right.
of your classroom lifestyle,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Completed, and that way you're not having that's done, and you're not tweaking that. That's what's going to make this fast. Is if that's done first, and then
Right.
really all you have to focus on is tweaking the lesson plans.
Right.
What about for high school or middle school, secondary grades, where you're only having them for they're rotating? It's the same content area.
Right.
There's still a schedule there. They still need to know certain things.
Right. It's not as extensive as in the
No.
elementary school.
No.
But they absolutely need to know is this period 1, period
Yes.
2? Some schools then do like a 4A, a 4B.
Uh-huh.
All of that needs delineated
Some
very
schools have
clearly.
like a study hall hour or
what does that mean?
What does that
I
mean?
was at a school where there was, I don't remember what the acronym was, but I thought, the plans just said this is the blank time. I'm like,
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. And no plans were left with it.
Right.
So what if this is an odd time, what is it?
Yeah.
Anything that would help someone coming in to understand the bells that ring constantly at a secondary school would also be helpful.
Yep. And the subject, right? You want to be like, okay, from this time to this time, it's period 1,
Age,
and we've got freshman social science or whatever. So I think it would just be helpful for them to know who's coming in, the age that's coming in, right? Here's where your prep time is. You can do, whatever at your prep time, and then here's your lunchtime, right?
And again, where do you eat? Where's the cafeteria? Are substitutes welcome in the cafeteria?
Yep. How do I get some food if they didn't bring their own?
Right.
And then can I just leave when I'm done? Like what?
Right.
How to lock up? Where do you take things back? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those things help, I think, in there. And you don't have to. You do it once and it's done.
Right.
It's kind of like set it and it's what is that the crock pot? What's the crock pot?
Yeah.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
That's the kind of thing that you want for these first few parts of your plan: the foundation, the activity, and then the schedule. Those FAS really should just be set it and forget it for the most part.
Right.
Maybe with a few minor tweaks here and there, if you want. So, okay, great. So the foundations, active learning experiences, and the schedule, we got that. It's the set it and forget it. But we also could, in theory, in the T part, the template, could almost have a generic fill in the blank situation to make it faster for you to type in very quickly, especially if you're not feeling well.
Say if you're throwing up at home,
Yeah.
you have a short window of time that you're lucid there.
Exactly.
So some fill in the blank things, and again, like Wendy said, numbered or bulleted, so it's very easy to read.
Step by step
plan. Then that really could be almost set it and forget it. You just have to kind of fill in.
Tweak.
And tweak. Like, okay, here's what this is and here's what this was. But it's already there from the last time maybe you did a sub-plan. You just have to, move things around.
So once again, nothing's wrong with repetition. So if you have a generic setup that students are going to write a metaphor brainstorm to summarize the math learning, every time a substitute is there, that's okay. Now, if you're going to be out, as people are for the next several days, you're going to have to
adjust
maybe not do that every single day.
Right.
But if you're just writing a plan for a day and you're out once a quarter or twice a quarter, it's okay for them to do the same thing. Then you only need to plug in, today we're dividing fractions, and they're going to write a metaphor brainstorm. And then 12 weeks from now, they're going to be, I have no idea what they would do after dividing fractions, whatever, but they're going to do a metaphor brainstorm again.
Yep.
Well, and I like we need to remember the whole purpose of subplans is that we want them to be effective, but we want them to be efficient and easy.
Yes.
And templates help us find that balance, right?
So I'm going to interrupt you for a minute, Julia, because there are, and it goes back to what we previously talked about. There are a lot of people who believe that a substitute's job is more of a babysitter. just make sure that nobody gets hurt.
Mhm.
That and I want to give more credit to those ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen who are coming into our classrooms,
Right.
as well as giving more credit to our students.
Yes.
And again, are there times when you have a family emergency or you're
Yes.
deathly ill? Yes. So please know, all of us know that. But you can't, sorry to interrupt
you're
again,
fine.
Julia, but you can leave something that's still teaching students.
Mhm. Yep.
That's effective.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
say, and that is a good use of the students' time, and I think the
Mhm.
students value that as well. Like when my teacher is out for emergency, she still left something, or he still left something
Mm-hmm.
that goes kind of with what we're
Mhm.
doing, and it's
She always leaves us a processing poster
Right.
that we have to make.
Right. yeah that we were just processing our learning
From the previous
last
day or-
Mhm.
two. Yep,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna put processing poster somewhere now in the template. Okay. So yeah, we just want to make it. I said less painless, which I don't. That doesn't go together.
No, how about less painful?
That's what it is.
Exactly.
But as I'm writing my typing from the other day, I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
It's okay.
But yeah, we want to be less painful. Just the whole process needs to be less painful. So I think this is an easy way. If they have the foundations of your classroom, they know what you expect of their learning. They're not going to be passive learners. They're going to be active learners. They know the schedule. They know all the little weird things that go on, because as a teacher, we have like 5 bazillion weird things that happen throughout the day. Okay. And then that you can anticipate. Some things you cannot anticipate, like Julia when the kid had a mouse in his pocket.
That is a true statement.
You can't anticipate that.
You could not anticipate
so
that.
could not be in the
I could
subway.
not leave directions for how to handle that.
Right.
And what were we reading? Of Mice and Men.
Of
or
Mice and
something.
Men. We
Yeah,
just finished.
She was
finished.
just getting into
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a whole different story to tell.
Yeah.
But whatever you can anticipate, those oddities, try to put those in. Okay. All right. So last question, before we get to rapid fire, when you have had either of you or to set up these long-term plans for any reason, like so many teachers are having to do if they do get sick, how do you organize the materials that went with your plan? So first of all, I guess, how do you organize your plans? And then a lot of times there are materials that have to be laid out. How do you organize that?
So this is where we come back to the conversation about the benefits of a really high functioning PLC.
Amen, sister.
Because in these long-term situations, sometimes there isn't a lot of prep. Like you even if you stayed up all night as the teacher, you could not physically prep this amount of work and know how to lay it out for the substitute.
Right.
And so we know that typically falls on the teachers that are teaching the same grade level or content area as you. I know when we adopted our daughter, I had 2 days notice, and then I was out for maternity leave.
Yep.
And I pretty much had to.
I remember that too.
I know, because
Yes,
I had to look at my colleague Britt and say, I'm out. And the baby's here,
And
so I don't really have
nothing.
time.
So we're gonna go to grab our baby tonight, and you have the classes for the next, however many weeks.
That part cannot be overstated.
But it worked though.
Yeah, because we were already planning together.
step to
My
step.
plans were her
Right.
plans, her plans were my plans, and it was easy
Right.
Super
to
easy.
just bring the sub along with that.
Yep.
And then you write a lot of thank you notes to that team, and you bring them Starbucks or
Yeah.
Diet Coke or whatever they like.
Mhm.
If you establish that relationship. So I've had a couple times in my life when I've had to be out multi-weeks, and my team just said, don't worry about it. We will,
We got you.
I had my basic subfolder,
Right. Yeah.
but my team said, we'll take this. It's okay.
Mhm.
We're doing the same thing. And what a relief that was.
It was. Yeah.
So don't underestimate the power of a PLC in, oops, I now have a family emergency or a family joy like Julia's.
Mhm.
And I cannot be here, nor can I make 6 weeks worth of plans.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and what I would do when Julia was out, or when I was out for maternity leave, or whatever, I may just I'm making copies of this for my class, and I know her numbers now, so I just made more, and I would literally just make them for the week, and then on her desk, I would just lay out Monday, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
this many. And then maybe there wasn't a handout for Tuesday, so that was fine. And then I would be like, okay,
Right.
Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. And so
Right.
the sub like had Post-it notes on the stacks of handouts.
Mhm.
So they weren't like, what are all these and what do they mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and can we take a moment to say how important that team is when the guest teacher is actually there?
Oh yeah, making them feel welcome.
Well, when I
part of the
was
team.
at an elementary school last week, and the two teachers who taught next door checked on me multiple times. Maybe they were worried about me. I don't know. But they checked on me multiple
So
times.
sweet. Yeah.
They asked, if they could come help with the computer. There was a short video the kids were watching. One of them came in and got that ready to go. And they were, because the teacher I was in for was out sick, they came into that room right after school. How far did you get? What'd you do? They weren't starting over writing plans. They were tweaking.
Yep.
But when you have colleagues like that, quality calling to step up, and because they know you would do the same for them,
Yep.
it's a beautiful thing that, yes, adds more stress for the people there, but lessens the person who's home. Boy, that's a bad sentence. Lessens the stress of the person who's home.
I said less painless.
You're
all
right.
right.
Julie is the only one who doesn't make mistakes.
Clearly.
Oh,
here.
never,
Right.
ever.
So you know what I'm saying there. You establish that team, and it really is. If you're the teacher who goes rogue or teaches the same way you've been teaching for 50 years, and
Or it's really far ahead of the team, or really
try
behind.
to get kind of on a pace with them, because it could make or break you.
Yeah, especially during what we're going through right
Yeah,
now.
and I don't think there really is a way to set up plans long term, like as the teacher going out, because you're not there living the day with the students,
Right. You don't know how far you're gonna get.
Right. And so I think
There's
that's
so
where
much you can
you
anticipate.
have to rely on the people that are there.
And once again, create good relationships with the substitutes. So I had subs who loved to come to my class and let me know. It's like, anytime you're going to be out, please call me.
Right, and I'd save those.
Oh, I've saved those
me
too.
too.
And then my
Call them
students
first.
got to know those people, and they knew my routines and procedures.
Yeah.
I always used to leave a little small gift for the guest teacher, a little candy bar, a bag of chips, or 50 cents that was in the olden days, 50 cents for the vending machines, something.
What a great idea.
You didn't do that?
I did not. Now I feel like a really bad person.
Bad. Oh,
But that is Wendy's brilliance.
Yes.
How to connect and make people feel welcome.
I always left them, a little box of snacks.
If I had something, I left it. If I was at home,
if you were deathly ill,
I did not.
I would say things like, feel free to help yourself to
yes,
whatever happened to be in my room.
Right. Yeah, because we always have teachers always have that secret stash.
But
We
so
do.
fun, like just a little $1 for the vending machine or
cute.
something.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah. Get a bag of chips or something like that.
Well, and we know I like to write notes, but I would leave a note ahead of time. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I hope that you'll have a smooth day. So that was a little bit more personal than just my sub plans.
Right.
And then with the, vending machine money, or, a little,
the sub folder plus the plan.
Yeah.
Now they feel like, okay,
right,
I can do this day, and it's going to be smooth.
Because I can tell you, just having subbed recently, and then in the times that I've just covered for other teachers, I'm scared to death every time I walk into an unknown room.
It's the first
I am,
day of school.
yeah, like I just did it this like a week ago, and 18 years of teaching, and I was petrified of the situation and just not knowing and figuring things out. And so anything that you as the teacher can do to set people at ease, to make them comfortable,
it is
gonna
not
help.
an easy job.
It's not.
This substituting thing, and so anything we can do to take care of them. And Julia's 18 years, but my 36, I am scared to death every time I walk into a classroom. I don't know these students. I may not know the subject. I probably don't know the campus or know people on the campus. Anything to put me at ease has helped as I've been out.
Yeah, I think that's Perfect, for sure. Okay, so anything else before we get to the rapid fire questions you guys want to add to how they can help, make the substitute feel comfortable, but be able to get these plans out and fast and moving so that
As
things
always,
can happen.
you put in the work on the front end.
Yeah.
So that the back end is easier. Yes, it's
Front
going to
load
take
them.
some time to front load it. But in the end, you'll be so happy. And especially if you have an emergency or you're really ill, be like, dang, I'm glad I put in that time early on.
Yeah, I know this sounds kind of weird, but like if I was out because my kids were sick or something, I sometimes would like send a picture to the sub of me and my kids just sick on the couch, and and my sub would say, "Oh, your kids loved seeing you," and they, saw that how sick your son was, and it was just more like, I'm still thinking of you guys. I have this to take care of as well. And so I still feel like as a teacher, I was connecting with my kids. So sometimes that's nice too. Okay, so rapid fire. Here we go.
Can I say one more thing? Just occurred to me. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
When you're going to lay materials out for substitutes, clear off your desk or your table or your space.
I love you so much.
And I know that's like, Wendy laughs because
I agree.
Substitutes have so many pieces of paper to keep
true.
track of
that
it's so easy to lose the paper if there's other stuff. And that also stresses.
Or if kids are just bringing you random things, you're like, I don't know where it just
and they have to make stacks.
Me. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That was like a definite good.
It was just a moment. I couldn't let it go.
And I have a messy desk, and I had sometimes a messy desk as a teacher, but I would make one big giant pile and hide it like you do at home in the
in the junk drawer or the
drawer.
In the oven.
Yeah.
Oh
you don't
my!
know how to hide things in the oven?
No, I use my oven. I would burn something.
No,
I know.
Like, somebody, you guys are stopping by my house. I haven't had time to do the dishes. Dishwasher's not empty. Just shove that stuff in the oven, and
I know. Britt and I are looking at her with big white eyes.
But I might use it now.
I know.
I would just be so afraid I would preheat it, forgetting I had stuff.
Yes,
that would be.
I've done that.
Smart you are.
Well, all right. Let's see how smart you are.
Wait, you preheat an oven? Or you mean your husband? You preheat the oven for your husband?
I know how buttons work on things.
You're not actually cooking anything.
I'm absolutely not cooking anything.
Just clarify.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Rapid fire questions. Number 1, we're going to do a metaphor brainstorm.
Awesome.
Okay. So substitute teaching is like a blank because blank. And we're going to be using holidays.
Okay.
Hang on.
Just came off some holidays.
I'm ready. I have
got some coming up. Okay.
You want to go first?
No, you
Julia?
go first. I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah. Let me go first. A substitute teaching is like Halloween.
I like it.
Because you have to get yourself all... I'm talking as a substitute, all dolled up or costumed to go in for your role as a teacher. And there will be tricks as well as treats.
Oh, she's excited about that.
Wow.
I can see it on the recording how loud that noise was.
Oh, sorry. You're going to have to edit that.
Gosh, I'm not sure I can compete with that, Wendy.
You can, Julia.
I'm
brilliant.
I'm at a loss for words. Okay, I'm gonna develop it as I go here. Substitute teaching is like preparing a Thanksgiving meal.
Okay.
Because you're relying on the person who was there before you to have purchased all the ingredients and to have laid out all the recipes so that you can cook the meal effectively.
Okay, she's like, I can't possibly cook, and then she's coming up with this. Yeah, okay. Whatever, Julia.
So let's put a plug in for metaphor brainstorming as a strategy. You guys just saw that in action, and you can do that with any subject.
Any topic.
I teach an entire class on metaphor brainstorming.
Yeah, so if you haven't used that as a teacher, it's so fun for kids. I mean, I threw holidays at them that you could use. I could have thrown fruit, color,
car parts,
bodies of water, whatever. Because I think it makes them have to do that abstract critical thinking for sure.
If you hear this, you're like, oh no, I need to know more about it now, you just email any one of us, and
We'll send
we're
it to you.
happy to
It's one
get
of our
that
favorites.
information to you. Yep.
All right, number 2. Describe how you would want a guest teacher in your classroom to feel, but you only get 5 words.
Welcome, empowered, supported, inspired,
Ooh.
and happy.
Okay, Wendy.
So I had already thought of empowered before you said it. I think it's a wonderful word.
I think for this, if especially, I think that would really encapsulate what we're trying to do here for subs.
I would want them to feel comfortable. Just like at my home, if there's some food out or if you want to have it, if you are not supposed to take it, I will put a note on that says, please do not touch the Reese's peanut butter cups. Otherwise, if there are Reese's peanut butter cups, you eat them. So empowered, comfortable, I want to say calm, but I mean more like ready, at ease, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, at ease is that same as comfortable. So it's different. Joyous. Like I want you to be happy. And what you said.
Happy and inspired.
Happy. Right. Yeah.
Joyous.
Inspired, joyous. And then, I know this, I'm breaking the rules, but maybe this is empowered, that you make a difference.
Yeah.
You are not just a babysitter. Oh, but that was way more than 5 words.
Yeah, that was so breaking the rules, but I'm going to allow
That's
it.
who I am.
I could allow these things to happen.
Uh-huh.
All right, number 3. What is the first thing you notice about someone when you meet them?
Their smile or lack thereof.
Oh.
Which has been really hard with masks.
Yeah.
So I'm
Really
trying
hard.
to become like an eye reader.
Yeah. Are you reading my eyes
But
right now?
immediately,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I immediately, if someone has a smile on their face, I immediately feel welcome and I feel comfortable. I don't feel like my guard has to go up. But
Right.
if there's no smile, I'm really questioning, like, am I bugging them? Can I go up and talk to them?
Okay.
And so I mostly notice eyes, and that was pre-mask too. But going with what Julia said, my mom always told me, look pleasant, look pleasant. I am always looking for people who have that look on their face that says, hey, I'm here. How can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that in people's eyes
Mm-hmm.
and then on the rest of their face.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to add this question because I think it's important for teachers to use as well with like their students. Like when a substitute comes in, what's the first thing they're going to notice about our classroom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you think about it, it's really going to be the students.
Looks on their faces.
The looks on their faces, the body language, that are we getting a day off to mess around, or hey, welcome, thank you so much for subbing today.
Well, and our students going to notice that in a substitute.
Right.
So when I've been in substituting during this rough time, I make sure to have my eyes lit up and have a pleasant look on my face. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't indicate to them that I mean business.
Right.
But I try to make myself look open and like I'm actually glad to be there. I don't go in thinking, oh, I was called to sub today and I have all this other stuff I should do. I want them to feel like I chose to be there, want to be there with them.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show, I mean, we both kind of said the face, and a lot of times people are like, oh, my hair isn't this way, or my outfit. No. Most people, it's research-based. It is expression.
Absolutely.
So if we can just remember that, teach that to our kids too, that could be part of those procedures in the beginning of the year of like how to interact with discussions with your partner, how to interact with discussions with me and other adults.
I do think you bring up a really good point. We do need to help our students understand that it is their job when we're not there to make the substitute feel welcome.
Yep.
I think that is so important.
It's a life skill.
It is a life skill.
It's a life skill.
You're gonna be meeting people that you don't know all the time, and you gotta be able to make a good first impression.
And I used to tell them, I would do, so they'd understand the perspective, I'd do some quick storytelling. And when I was teaching them about how I expect them to behave with substitutes, and I would say, imagine that you been given the task of walking into, like, this is what they're seeing and what they're feeling.
Mhm.
What can you do to make that easier?
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, and then the last one, because I know so many people are not feeling well during this time, and even I have my mask on today with these ladies just because I don't know if it's allergies or what, because we never know now. It's just, it is what it is. But like, what do you cook or what do you want to eat when you don't feel good? You don't feel well.
Go ahead.
Well, this goes back to my childhood. Anytime I was sad or sick, one of my grandmothers would, and they both could make it, so they must have talked to each other and taken turns, custard, egg custard. It's such an old-fashioned food, probably from back in the day when I had lots of chicken eggs, but not much else. But it is still so comforting to me. The other thing that is a comfort food for me is macaroni and cheese. I have perfected a recipe that I've created for macaroni and cheese. And it is it's not healthy.
No.
There's nothing, like I'm not putting broccoli spears in it or anything.
Right.
I love broccoli. Nothing gets broccoli. But there's something about warm and cheesy and carbohydrate and all that is so, just makes you feel better. And then, soup is kind of a standard. So I have several soups that I love to make when I'm not feeling well, or that my mom makes
somebody will
for
drop
me.
off.
Yes,
for sure. Okay.
Mine is scrambled eggs. And part of the reason for that is I've had a lot of surgeries, and preparing for those surgeries, you're not allowed to eat for quite a long time beforehand. And so I would wake up from those surgeries wanting, slightly nauseous, right?
Yes.
But wanting something hearty, but simple. And so scrambled eggs have kind of become that thing. My husband knows every time I have a surgery, to be ready to scramble me some eggs when we get home.
Yeah, because you're getting that protein, but it's not harsh on your stomach. Yeah.
And then scones. I want a scone anytime, but if I'm not feeling well, I feel justified in really just going to town on some scones.
And where are the best scones?
In Oregon.
Right.
We all want to go back to Oregon.
There are some places here that have good scones.
Right.
And they are nice.
They are. And so we'll hopefully share some recipes.
Yeah, I think we'll link some recipes for some people, and they can.
Okay. So
your friends some soup and a
if
scone.
I get to give people recipes, I am almost as happy as if I've arranged their trip to Oregon. So I will be all over recipes for this.
So make sure you guys go to the website and get the links to all the recipes for Wendy and Julia's You Don't Feel Well, but we can make you feel better food items. So our next episode together will be on test prep, and that just sounds wrong. Hattie says, what about test prep?
Right.
That it's not super high.
It's not particularly helpful.
So what are we going to talk about? Let's give a little bit of a teaser when we talk about test prep.
Well, we're going to talk about what you can do to help your students perform well on tests without stopping your teaching. So I've seen teachers like, for the next 3 weeks, we're doing test prep. No.
I've done it.
Oh, of course.
Right?
We all have.
We've
but
all.
If you're still doing it, there's a better way.
Okay. Well, that's the cliffhanger. There's a better way, and that's going to be the next episode. It's the better way to test prep, because we are coming into that season, and we want to make sure that, again, these topics that are coming out on these podcast episodes for season 4 are very timely to what's going on in your guys' world. So, all right. Thank you, ladies, for talking about substitute teaching. And
Thank you.
Hopefully we can get that template and those recipes out, and everybody can make substitutes plans quickly and feel better eating at home.
Alrighty.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Learning Unlocked and finding out more about how to make substitute plans fast, and also how to make your substitutes feel more welcome in your classroom. If you have listened today as a GPS educator, you can receive PD recertification credit by visiting our Employee Hub page and navigating to Professional Growth, and then clicking on the Learning Unlocked podcast button. Just a reminder that we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GPS Prof Growth. That's GPSPROFGROWTH. For more information or resources from this episode, such as the substitute template as well as recipes, please visit our website at learningunlocked.lipson.com/website. We are distributed by Lipson to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, oh man, that was rough. Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Audible. Episodes are also available on PGD's YouTube channel under playlists. Our intro and outro music is licensed from Melody Loops. Thanks again, key holders. Keep unlocking curiosity, creativity, and innovation with your students. Stay kind and courageous and safe. And we will see you next time for talking about that test prep. Hope you have a great week.